God's chosen ones. Heaven has approved it. Your wealth transfer starts now. Have you ever wondered why, despite everything trying to pull you down, you are still standing? Have you questioned why, even in your darkest nights, a quiet whisper inside you refused to let you quit? Have you realized that no matter how overlooked you felt, something sacred kept your name alive in places you have never even walked into yet? Listen carefully. You did not find this message by accident. You were summoned here. Your spirit has been magnetized by a higher calling, orchestrated long before you ever took your first breath. You are not mistaken. You are not misplaced. You are not forgotten. You are chosen. And this very moment is your hour. Before time ever existed, your name was inscribed on the sacred scroll of destiny, inked by the hand of God Himself. Long before you fought silent battles, before you endured heartbreaks that no one else knew about, before the world tried to define you by its own shallow measures, heaven had already spoken a different word over your life. Heaven declared you worthy. Heaven declared you set apart. Heaven declared you unstoppable. Every tear you cried in secret, every prayer you whispered in your loneliness, every silent act of obedience you offered when nobody was watching, none of it was wasted. It was all recorded. It was all building toward this, a divine unveiling, a supernatural shift, a moment tailor-made for you by the Creator of the universe. You are not about to step into something you earned through effort alone. You are stepping into something that was ordained by bloodline, by covenant, by divine appointment. This is not just another season. This is not just another opportunity. This is a sacred summons, an irreversible decree from the throne room of heaven. The gates have been opened. The scrolls have been unsealed. The blessings prepared for you from generations past are now ready to flood into your life, not because you chased them, but because you were always meant to carry them. So I ask you, chosen one, as heaven leans closer and the angels hold their breath, are you ready to step into your divine harvest season, the silent room where heaven still heard your tears? There were nights when the silence was so loud it roared inside your chest like a storm no one else could hear. Nights when the weight of unanswered prayers sat heavy on your soul, pressing you into a loneliness that words could never explain. You sat in that room, didn't you? That small, dim room where even the walls seemed to echo back your desperation. The world outside kept moving, kept spinning, but inside those four walls, it felt like time had frozen. You knelt by the bedside, whispering prayers you weren't even sure would reach beyond the ceiling. You pleaded, you begged, you wept into the darkness, and still it felt like heaven remained silent. You know that feeling. The closed doors, the opportunities you watched others walk into while your own path seemed barricaded by invisibility. You know what it is to stretch out your hand for help and feel nothing but the cold air brushing against your fingertips. You know what it is to believe with every fiber of your being and yet see nothing shift, nothing move, nothing respond. The empty inbox, the unopened doors, the unanswered calls. The rooms where your name was never mentioned, where your gifts were overlooked, where your heart was left unseen. And yet, you kept showing up. Even when your heart broke a little more each day, even when the loneliness gnawed at the edges of your dreams, even when your voice grew hoarse from prayers that seemed to disappear into thin air. You didn't quit. You didn't bow to bitterness. You didn't let the silence convince you that you were forgotten. Instead, you chose to believe, if only by a thread of hope, that somehow, some way, your prayers were heard, that somehow the closed doors were not rejections, but redirections, that somehow the loneliness wasn't punishment, but protection. Maybe you didn't have the words to explain it to anyone else. Maybe you smiled through your exhaustion. Maybe you nodded through the disappointment. Maybe you stayed silent when your soul screamed for relief. But inside, a flame refused to die. Inside, a small ember of hope fought to stay alive. It flickered in the darkness. It gasped for breath under the weight of discouragement. But it never, not once, went out. And now, hear me when I say this, now is the time to understand what you could not see back then. No prayer you prayed in that lonely room was ever wasted. No tear you cried on that cold pillow was ever ignored. No act of faith in the silence went unnoticed. Heaven was listening even when you thought heaven was silent. Angels were moving even when you thought you were standing still. Destiny was shifting even when everything around you screamed stuck. Those moments, the ones you thought were your end, were actually your beginning. Those locked doors you pounded on were not doors to your prison. They were barriers protecting you from counterfeit blessings. Every no you received wasn't rejection. It was redirection towards something far greater than you could comprehend at the time. You were not being buried, you were being planted. In the unseen, you were growing roots, deep roots. Roots that could withstand storms, criticism, betrayal, and even seasons of drought. God wasn't punishing you, He was preparing you. He wasn't hiding from you, He was hiding you for the right moment, the right platform, the right calling. Think about it. If you had been given everything you asked for when you asked for it, would you have been ready to carry it? If every door had swung open without resistance, would your character have been strong enough to sustain the weight of your calling? If every opportunity had been handed to you easily, would you have understood the value of stewardship, of humility, of perseverance? No. You had to be built in the dark. You had to be strengthened in the silence. You had to learn how to hear God's voice above the noise of your own fears. You had to become someone who could carry the glory without needing the applause. You had to become someone who could stand alone if necessary, because your foundation was rooted in Him, not in circumstances, not in people, not in public affirmation. Every night you cried yourself to sleep was a night heaven recorded your faithfulness. Every time you chose to worship when you wanted to quit, heaven took notice. Every time you smiled through your pain, every time you served when you felt empty, every time you held on to hope with trembling hands, those moments became bricks in the foundation of the destiny you are now stepping into. Not a single drop of your suffering was wasted. Not a single night of sorrow was forgotten. Every whisper, every sigh, every desperate "God, are you even there?" was caught, held, and treasured by the one who sees in secret, the God who counts every hair on your head, who holds every tear you shed, who writes every chapter of your story with hands scarred by love. He has been working, weaving, and building something far greater than your pain could ever. And now, the soil that soaked your tears will yield a harvest beyond your wildest dreams. The ground you thought was barren will spring forth with abundance. The very areas where you felt the most forgotten will become the stages for your greatest testimony. The silence was not your enemy. It was your sacred classroom, and the lessons you learned in the dark will be the weapons you wield in the light. So remember this truth, chosen one. Not a single tear you cried was ever wasted. Not one moment of your heartbreak was overlooked. Not one prayer was ignored. Heaven kept perfect records, and the God who saw you in your lowest valley is the same God who is calling you now into your highest victory. You are not the same person who knelt in that empty room, wondering if anyone was listening. You are the warrior forged in fire. You are the carrier of promises that will shake nations. You are the living evidence that hope never dies and faith never fails. The world may have forgotten, but heaven never did. And now, as the heavens prepare to open over your life, I ask you again, with the full weight of destiny echoing in my voice, are you ready to step into the harvest that was paid for by your faithfulness in the dark? Heaven's ledger has your name written in gold. The shift you have been praying for, crying for, fighting for in the unseen is no longer a future promise. It is a present reality. Right now, as you hear these words, a divine movement is unfolding in realms higher than any earthly system can comprehend. Right now, the heavenly transaction concerning your life has been completed. The seals have been broken. The orders have been signed. The release has been authorized by the highest courts of heaven, and your name is etched on the decree. You are standing in the middle of a sacred shift, a divine redistribution of wealth, influence, and opportunity. And this is not some distant prophecy waiting to be fulfilled decades from now. The wheels of heaven are already turning, the gates are already swinging wide, the storehouses are already pouring out. The scrolls that were once sealed have been opened, and your destiny is being pulled from the invisible into the visible with unstoppable force. The Word of God confirms this prophetic move. Deuteronomy 8:18 declares, "But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the power to get wealth, that He may confirm His covenant that He swore to your fathers, as it is this day." Not tomorrow, not next year, this day. The same God who forged covenants with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God who honors His promises from generation to generation, has now activated those same promises over your life. His power to gain wealth is not being negotiated, it has been granted. Titus 13:22 further prophesies, "The wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just." What once was stored in the hands of the unrighteous is now being released, reallocated, reassigned to those who walk in righteousness, humility, and obedience. This is not poetic language, this is legal language in the courts of heaven. The transfer is happening, and it is happening now. Every ounce of resistance you have faced, every delay you have battled, every dry season you have survived, was leading up to this moment of release. Heaven's storehouses are not dripping provision, they are unleashing it. This is a downpour, not a drizzle. This is overflow, not a trickle. This is divine redistribution, not based on effort alone, but based on alignment, covenant, and calling. The visual economy has shifted. Those who were once hidden are now being summoned to the forefront. Those who were once silenced are now being given platforms. Those who were once overlooked are now being anointed with unprecedented visibility. The era of hidden labor is closing. The era of visible favor is opening. And you, chosen one, are not standing on the sidelines of this divine movement. You are in the epicenter of it. You are the carrier of this wealth transfer. It has been assigned to you not to inflate your ego, not to build monuments to yourself, but to establish the kingdom of God on earth, to fund visions that heal, to build systems that liberate, to create spaces where generations to come can encounter the... Can you feel the quickening in your spirit? Can you sense the atmosphere around you shifting even now? That pressure you've been feeling, that stirring that won't let you rest, that sudden clarity about your purpose. It's all confirmation that the transfer has already begun. You are no longer preparing for it. You are now participating in it. But hear this. Divine release demands divine readiness. Heaven is not asking you to strive harder. Heaven is commanding you to receive with a posture of faith, surrender, and expectation. You must prepare your hands to steward abundance. You must prepare your heart to manage influence. You must prepare your mind to navigate doors that no man can shut. The posture of your spirit will determine the flow into your life. No longer approach the promises timidly. No longer ask for scraps when God is setting a table before you in the presence of your enemies. No longer wait for external validation to believe what heaven has already declared over you. You have been approved by the only authority that matters. You have been funded by the only treasury that never runs dry. You have been positioned by the only hand that never misses its mark. This is not prosperity through manipulation. This is not wealth through compromise. This is covenant fulfillment through surrender. It is God's desire to prosper His children, not to hoard, but to heal, not to flaunt, but to fund freedom, not to boast, but to bless. The blessing coming upon you is not the end goal. It is the beginning of legacy. It is the birthing ground for movements that will break chains, establish righteousness, and redeem territories long held in darkness. So I say to you with holy urgency, lift your head, stretch out your hands, expand your tents, open your spirit. Begin to prepare like one who has already received, because in the unseen it is already done. The transfer has been finalized, the heavenly accounts have been shifted, the inheritance has been unlocked. Your assignment now is not to strive, it is to align, to position yourself under the open heavens, to move in expectation, not hesitation. To speak from faith, not fear, to build as if the blueprints of heaven have already been delivered into your hands. Because they have, you are stepping into days of supernatural transactions, unexpected releases, sudden yeses, and divine appointments. You will wake up to opportunities you never applied for. You will receive answers to prayers you almost gave up on. You will see doors swing open so wide you'll realize they were carved for you before the foundations of the world. This is not hype. This is not fantasy. This is the fulfillment of a prophetic moment that has been centuries in the making. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, the same God who parts seas, who topples giants, who sends fire from heaven, is the God who now commands the wealth of the nations to be transferred into the hands of His chosen ones. Do not delay your response. Do not shrink under the weight of false humility. Do not hide behind fear when heaven is calling you into ownership, stewardship, and dominion. The time of hiding is over. The time of hesitation is over. The time of receiving is here. The transaction is complete. The divine shift is underway. The scrolls have been opened. Your name has been called. Are you ready to take your place in this holy transfer? Hidden, not to punish you, but to perfect you. Have you ever wondered why, despite your prayers, your talents, your relentless faith, you still found yourself hidden away while others were celebrated? Have you ever asked why the spotlight seemed to pass you by, even though you knew deep within that you carried something rare, something sacred, something the world desperately needed? It wasn't punishment, it wasn't neglect, it was preparation. Before God ever reveals a chosen one to the world, He first draws them into the shadows. It's a pattern etched deep into the ancient pages of Scripture and the sacred rhythms of destiny. Look at David. Before he ever stood on the battlefield with Goliath's fate hanging on his sling, David was a shepherd boy, hidden in the fields where no crowds gathered, where no accolades echoed, where only the sheep, the stars, and God Himself bore witness to his courage. Imagine those endless days and lonely nights, the solitude, the obscurity, the smallness of his world compared to the greatness pulsing within his veins. Yet in those forgotten fields, David was being forged. Away from the applause of men, he learned how to fight off lions and bears with his bare hands. Away from the noise of courts and kings, he learned how to hear the whisper of God's voice amidst the silence. What looked like hiding was not delay, it was design. You see, hiddenness is not the absence of destiny, it is the cultivation of it. When God hides you, He is not putting you on pause, He is putting you into process. He is allowing the roots to grow deep before the branches ever stretch high. He is insulating you from the premature exposure that could kill the very thing He planted inside of you. An early spotlight can scorch a calling that has not been fully secured. Premature promotion can derail a destiny that has not yet been properly anchored. When the world doesn't see you, it's easy to believe you've been forgotten. But heaven does some of its most miraculous work in the shadows. Seeds do not sprout in sunlight alone. They must first be buried in the dark, embraced by the soil, unseen, and pressed down before they can break forth with life. So it is with you. Your hidden season was holy. It was where the muscles of your faith were torn and rebuilt, where your dependency on applause was stripped away, where your intimacy with God deepened into something unshakable, where your motives were purified, your patience was tested, your discernment was sharpened. You were being made into someone who could not only survive favor, but steward it with humility and wisdom. Because the truth is this: God was never interested in giving you temporary success. He was interested in building through you an eternal legacy, and that kind of legacy cannot be constructed on flimsy foundations of public approval or personal ambition. It must be built upon the unmovable rock of identity, rooted in Him alone. Hiddenness protected you from voices that would have distorted your calling before you understood its weight. It shielded you from premature battles you weren't yet equipped to win. It guarded your oil from those who would have tried to market, manipulate, or misuse it for their gain. God's delay wasn't denial, it was defense. He wasn't keeping opportunities from you, He was keeping you from opportunists. Hiddenness also provided something few recognize until it's over. It provided sacred space to heal, to grieve the losses you didn't even know you carried, to shed the layers of false identity, to release the expectations of a world that would have boxed you into an image you were never meant to fit. In the silence, you were able to hear the only voice that matters. In the isolation, you discovered that you were never truly alone. David wasn't called to the palace straight from his father's house. He was called to the wilderness first. So were Moses, Elijah, John the Baptist, even Jesus himself. Before their public missions exploded onto the scenes of history, they endured seasons where the crowd was absent. The affirmation was missing, and only the anointing remained. And so it was with you. Chosen one, hear me now. You have not been rejected, you have been refined. You have not been abandoned, you have been anointed. You were not overlooked by mistake, you were hidden by divine strategy. Because God knows that what is birthed in brokenness carries a different kind of beauty. What survives the silence emerges with a different kind of strength. You are not less valuable because you are unseen. You are more powerful because you are sharpened without needing validation. You are dangerous to darkness because you have been anchored beyond applause. You are trustworthy now because your faithfulness was proven when no one else was watching. And now, because you endured the hidden season without letting bitterness root in your heart, without letting doubt dismantle your faith, heaven is preparing to unveil you in a way that no man can manipulate and no system can sabotage. Your time is not just coming, it is arriving. Slowly at first, like the first crack of dawn breaking against the horizon. Then, faster, brighter, clearer, until the fullness of your calling stands undeniable before the world. But do not mistake the season of silence as wasted time. Nothing was wasted. Every tear watered the soil, every prayer prepared the ground, every act of obedience built the infrastructure of your future. You are not stepping into blessing by accident. You are stepping into fulfillment by design. So, take heart. The God who hid you was never withholding love. He was proving it. He wasn't saying no to your dreams. He was saying yes to their preservation. He wasn't trying to break you down. He was building you up to carry more than you ever thought possible. Chu Kong Jiao Ban De Tu Choi Ban Ngai Ban De Bao Wei Ban. God did not hide you to deny you. He hid you to defend you. because he knew your worth long before the world would recognize it. And now that you have been fortified in private, you are ready to be trusted with influence in public. The fields you once wept in will become the stages you now lead on. The caves you once hid in will become the headquarters of movements that shift history. The silent seasons that once broke your heart will become the soundtrack of the testimonies that break chains for generations to come. So stand tall, chosen one. Your hiddenness was not your humiliation, it was your consecration. And now, as the veil begins to lift, as heaven breathes the command for your unveiling, walk forward, not in fear, but in fullness. You have been prepared in the shadows for this light, and the world is about to witness what heaven has been building all along. The old systems are crumbling, and you are rising. Across the world, the systems men once believed unshakable are trembling. The towering corporations that seemed invincible are collapsing under the weight of their own greed. Major banks, once the fortresses of financial stability, are now crumbling like sandcastles struck by a rising tide. Economic structures built on manipulation and exploitation are cracking at their very foundations, revealing the corruption that was always hidden just beneath the surface. Legacy brands, global empires, centuries-old institutions, all are faltering. Not because of market forces alone, but because heaven has issued a decree that the time of unjust rule is coming to an end. This is no ordinary recession. It is no mere financial downturn. What you are witnessing is a divine recalibration. It is heaven intervening in the affairs of earth, shaking the kingdoms of men to realign them with the purposes of God. When systems that were never built on righteousness begin to fall, it is not chaos, it is fulfillment of a promise, that the meek shall inherit the earth, that the righteous shall possess the treasures long withheld, and that the faithful will no longer labor in vain while the wicked prosper. Understand this with absolute clarity. Wealth does not vanish. It transfers. It shifts hands. It moves from those who misused it into the hands of those who will steward it with integrity. Money, influence, property, platforms, they are not being destroyed. They are being reassigned. The resources that once funded vanity projects and perpetuated injustice are being reallocated by the divine hand to build, to heal, to restore what generations before us cried out for. The word affirms it plainly in Proverbs 13:22. The wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. This is not a metaphor. It is a legal transfer in the spiritual economy, activated by alignment, sealed by covenant, and timed perfectly according to heaven's clock. The things that have seemed locked away behind unreachable walls are now breaking loose. Opportunities once monopolized by the corrupt are now opening for the right. Access once denied to you is now being granted by divine mandate. This is not a season for panic. It is a season for positioning. While the world scrambles to hold on to systems that are imploding, you are called to rise. While others mourn the collapse of man-made kingdoms, you are summoned to build unshakable ones. You are not losing, you are inheriting. You are not left behind, you are being brought forward. But this inheritance is not casual, it is covenantal. You are not a lucky recipient, you are a lawful heir. You are the fulfillment of ancient promises. Deuteronomy 8:18 reminds us, "But you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the power to get wealth, that He may establish His covenant." Your rise is not just about personal prosperity, it is about divine partnership. It could be. It is about God demonstrating through your life that He keeps His word from generation to generation. The wealth that is being transferred into your hands is meant to fund visions born from heaven, not egos built on earth. It is meant to construct hospitals, schools, ministries, businesses that uplift rather than exploit. It is meant to break cycles of poverty, ignorance, injustice that have plagued families and communities for centuries. It is meant to finance freedom, not bondage. Restoration, not domination. Healing, not harm. You must see beyond the collapse. You must look past the headlines of fear and confusion. You must discern the hand of God at work in the shaking. For every institution that falls, a mantle is released. For every system that crumbles, a new seat of authority is being offered to those prepared to carry it with honor. For every financial tower that collapses, a wellspring of kingdom provision is opening. But take heed, chosen one. Inheritance demands maturity. Heaven is not looking for reckless recipients. Heaven is entrusting wealth to those whose hearts beat in rhythm with God's own heart. Those who seek first the kingdom, knowing that all other things will be added unto them. Those who understand that to be entrusted with much is to be responsible for much. Those who know that power without purity is poison, and influence without integrity is idolatry. This is why your hidden season mattered. This is why your wilderness was necessary. It forged in you the strength not to be seduced by sudden success. It trained your spirit to hear God's voice above the noise of opportunity. It molded your hands to be steady when wealth surges into them, because wealth will not define you. You will define wealth by how you wield it. This transfer is sacred. It is not for status, but for strategy. It is not for luxury alone, but for legacy. You are being trusted to redistribute what the enemy once used to enslave, and to now deploy it for freedom. You are stepping into ownership of businesses, lands, patents, platforms, and influence, not to hoard, but to heal. To steward them wisely for the kingdom, for generations to come. The old world is falling apart, not because darkness is winning, but because light is advancing. The old gates are breaking, not because God has abandoned us, but because He is making room for a new move of righteousness. You are not called to mourn the collapse of corrupted empires. You are called to inherit the vacant thrones they leave behind. You must walk with your eyes open and your spirit alert. Opportunities will present themselves, disguised as challenges. Wealth will be hidden inside assignments that require faith, courage, and swift obedience. Influence will be unlocked by humility, not hustle. Provision will flow to your purpose, not your pride. So, chosen one, do not fear the shaking. Embrace it. Do not lament the collapse. Anticipate the transfer, because when others see destruction, you will see divine distribution. When others see loss, you will see legacy. When others cling to the ashes of what was, you will rise to build what is yet to be. You are a lawful heir in the covenant of God. You are the rightful recipient of the promises sealed by His blood. You are the vessel heaven has prepared for this hour of divine redistribution. You were hidden for this. You were refined for this. You were anointed for this. The wealth has not disappeared. It has been reassigned. The question is no longer whether the transfer is real, it is whether you are ready to receive it. Faith builds what effort alone could never reach. Listen closely, chosen one. Your effort was never wasted. Your sacrifice was never unnoticed. Every hour of labor, every drop of sweat, every seed you sowed in seasons when you had nothing left but hope, they built the foundation. They prepared the ground. They cultivated the soil of your destiny. But understand this with absolute clarity. Effort alone does not unlock the doors of divine wealth. Effort alone does not trigger the transfer now moving in your favor. Only faith. Effort prepares you. Faith propels you. Effort shapes your hands. Faith opens the heavens. Effort lays the groundwork. Faith builds the bridge between the unseen and the seen. In the economy of heaven, hard work matters, yes, but it is faith that releases the fulfillment of promises sealed long before you ever began your labor. Look to Noah. Noah built an ark in a land that had never seen rain. He hammered wood, he laid planks, he constructed decks and chambers, not because he saw clouds forming on the horizon, but because he believed the word God had spoken to him. His effort had meaning only because it was partnered with faith. Without faith, his labor would have seemed insane, but because he trusted what had not yet been revealed, he preserved generations through his obedience. Consider Abraham. Long before Isaac ever cried his first breath into the desert air, Abraham believed. Romans 4:18 tells us, "Against all hope, Abraham in hope believed, and so became the father of many nations." He did not wait for evidence to appear before positioning himself as an heir. He moved, he acted, he built altars, he renamed himself, he aligned his life with the promise before the promise ever materialized. The pattern is unmistakable. Heaven responds not to hustle, but to belief. Heaven honors not just movement, but faithful movement. It is not your striving that unlocks the scrolls written in your name. It is your agreement with what heaven has already decreed. The transfer of wealth, of influence, of territory is being activated not because you worked harder than others, but because you dared to believe when others stopped trying. That is why now, more than ever, you must act as if the blessing has already been released. You must move not like someone waiting to be approved, but like someone who knows the deal is done, the gate is open, and the delivery is already en route. Your posture must match your prophecy. Your behavior must mirror your belief. You must speak like one who already holds the deed to the land. You must plan like one whose name has already been written into the ledger of legacy. You must build like one whose resources are not coming from a limited world economy, but from an unlimited heavenly supply. You must move like Noah, hammering away at the ark in full view of a scoffing world, because your faith is not dependent on their understanding. It is dependent only on your obedience. There can be no more hesitation, no more waiting for signs in the sky. The signs have already been given. The scrolls have already been opened. The trumpet has already sounded in the Spirit. What heaven is waiting on now is your movement in agreement. When you move by faith, you prove to heaven that you are ready to steward what is being released. When you take steps that make no sense to the natural eye but align perfectly with the promises whispered into your spirit, you step into the rhythm of divine acceleration. Faith is not passive. Faith is aggressive. Faith digs ditches before the rain falls. Faith sows seeds before the harvest comes. Faith builds room for miracles before a single breakthrough shows up. Faith praises before the walls fall. Faith dances before the chains break. Faith names the child before the pregnancy test confirms it. Faith prepares the banquet while the table still looks empty. The enemy will try to convince you to wait until you see more proof. He will whisper doubts. He will suggest caution. He will offer you logical arguments for delay. But heaven moves at the speed of faith, not fear. If you wait for confirmation from the natural realm, you will miss the supernatural window now swinging wide before you. This is the time to move boldly, to submit applications for positions you feel unqualified for, but heaven says are yours. To register businesses heaven told you to start, even when the market looks unstable. To sow financial seeds, even when your natural mind screams to hoard. To build platforms, release books, launch ministries, write songs. Create solutions not because you have all the resources yet, but because you know the resources are running to catch up with your obedience. No strategy. The righteous shall live by faith, not by sight. It was never about what you could see, it was about what you were willing to believe enough to act on. Chosen one, if you could see the heavenly ledgers being updated in your favor right now, you would not hesitate. If you could hear the conversations in the unseen realms where your name is being spoken with honor, you would not doubt. If you could glimpse the storehouses being unlocked, the routes of wealth and influence being rerouted toward you, you would already be shouting with victory, but you do not need to see it with natural eyes. You are called to see it by the Spirit, to sense it, to know it, to align with it. This is the hour where your faith must be louder than your fears. This is the season where your movement must match your mantle. This is the moment where you must not wait for perfect conditions, but move because the Word of God alone is your confirmation. God has already declared it. Heaven has already approved it. The transfer has already begun. Your responsibility now is to act like it, to plan like it, to prepare like it, to live like it. You are not begging for the blessing, you are walking it out. You are not hoping for approval, you are operating from it. You are not striving for access, you are standing in it. Faith is your bridge, faith is your currency, faith is your activation code. Move, chosen one, move like the rain is coming because it is. Move like the harvest is ripe because it is. Move like the wealth has shifted because it already has. Heaven is waiting for your agreement, and the earth is waiting for your emergence. You are not just receiving wealth, you're inheriting kingdoms. Chosen one, lift your eyes higher. What heaven is releasing into your life in this hour is far greater than a mere transfer of finances. This wealth transfer is not confined to gold, silver, or currency. It is a comprehensive inheritance, a sweeping restoration, a divine upgrade that touches every dimension of who you are and what you were born to carry. You are not just receiving provision, you are receiving territory. You must understand this clearly. God is not merely transferring money into your hands. He is transferring influence into your voice, wisdom into your mind, vitality into your body, creativity into your spirit, and dominion into your steps. What is coming upon you now is an elevation of capacity, a widening of your borders, a strengthening of your foundations, a multiplying of your reach. The wealth transfer you are stepping into includes financial overflow, yes. You will see debts cancelled, businesses birthed, opportunities unlocked, but beyond that, you will walk in supernatural health because your body must be strong enough to carry the weight of the assignment. You will receive divine downloads of strategy, creativity, and insight because heaven is entrusting you to build what no one has built, to create what has not yet been imagined. You will be given relational wealth, connections orchestrated by God Himself that will accelerate your calling, partnerships birthed in the Spirit that will unlock new territories. You will receive influence, voices amplified beyond your qualifications, platforms given without campaigning, doors opening that no human hand could have pushed wide. This is why you cannot limit your expectation to finances alone. If your mind is only fixed on money, you will miss the fullness of what God is pouring out. Wealth is not simply the currency of earth. True wealth in the kingdom is the ability to shape culture, to birth movements, to raise up generations, to shift atmospheres wherever your feet tread. You are receiving nations, not just bank accounts. You are being handed blueprints for legacy, not just temporary increase. You are being trusted with ideas that will outlive you, businesses that will become dynasties of righteousness, ministries that will heal lands once ravaged by despair. Remember the promise God made to Abraham. Genesis 13:17 declares, "Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee." God was not handing Abraham a handful of gold coins. He was handing him the title deed to territories that would birth nations. He was saying, look beyond what you see, expand your vision, stretch your expectation, and He is saying the same to you now. You are not merely receiving wealth, you are receiving dominion. You are being anointed to possess industries, to reclaim education, to rebuild families, to restore broken cities. You are being sent not just to survive in the systems of the world, but to reshape them according to heaven's blueprint. The creativity being unlocked in you is part of the wealth. The strategies that flood your dreams are part of the wealth. The resilience rising in your soul is part of the wealth. The authority stirring in your voice is part of the wealth. The boldness you feel stirring even now is heaven expanding your territory from the inside out. Chosen one, dare to expect more. Dare to stretch your faith beyond bills being paid and needs being met. Dare to believe that you are called to influence kings and nations, to sit at tables you did not build, to inherit fields you did not plant, to occupy spaces no one in your bloodline has ever entered. You are not merely being blessed to consume, you are being blessed to build, to restore, to reign, to redeem. The wealth of heaven is not a river that stops at your feet. It is a flood meant to flow through you into the earth, creating gardens where deserts once reigned. This is why mediocrity can no longer be your home. This is why small thinking must be cast out of your spirit. You must expand your tent pegs. You must lengthen your cords. You must strengthen your stakes. Because what heaven is delivering into your life will not fit into the old wineskin of limitation. This transfer is not a gift for you to hoard. It is a mandate for you to steward. It is a commission for you to fulfill, and the impact of your obedience will echo through generations you will never meet, blessing descendants who will one day rise and call you faithful. Lift your head, chosen one. Square your shoulders. Fix your gaze on the horizon. The land is yours to claim. The inheritance is yours to receive. The authority is yours to wield. The blessing is yours to multiply. You are receiving more than wealth. You are receiving wisdom. You are receiving revelation. You are receiving innovation. You are receiving territory. You are receiving legacy. You are not stepping into survival. You are stepping into sovereignty under the kingship of Christ. You are not crawling into provision. You are commanding it. You are not hoping for scraps. You are preparing for cities. You are not asking for leftovers. You are inheriting nations. So prepare as one who has already received. Pray as one who knows the answer is sealed. Plan as one whose borders are already being enlarged. Build as one whose name is written on heavenly blueprints, because heaven is not just sending blessings to you. Heaven is expanding blessings through you, and the world is about to witness what it looks like when a chosen one rises into the fullness of their inheritance. Protect what was planted in sacred silence, chosen one. Now that you are stepping into your season of wealth transfer, it is critical that you not only receive the blessing, but that you also learn how to protect it. Heaven has entrusted you with something sacred, and anything sacred must be shielded with intentionality, discernment, and wisdom. Blessings unguarded can be easily drained. Purpose undefended can be easily diluted. You must become a wise steward, not just a grateful receiver. The greatest threat to your blessing is not always a direct attack. Often it comes subtly, masked as busyness, good opportunities, harmless conversations, familiar distractions. You must learn to distinguish clearly between distraction and divine mission. Not everything that demands your attention deserves your attention. Not every open door is a God door. Not every invitation is an assignment. Distraction will always feel urgent but leave you empty. Divine mission may require patience, but will leave you fulfilled. Distraction scatters your energy. Divine mission focuses it. Distraction flatters your ego. Divine mission anchors your soul. One pulls you away from the center of your calling, the other pulls you deeper into it. This is why you must establish spiritual boundaries with the same seriousness you would guard a treasure chest filled with precious jewels. Because what you carry is far more valuable. It is generational, it is eternal, it is irreplaceable. First, build a fence of prayer around your day. Every morning, before you check a single message or respond to a single demand, anchor yourself in God's presence. Declare aloud that your mind, your spirit, your assignments, and your territory are under divine protection. Pray not just for provision, but for discernment. Ask for eyes to see beyond appearances, for ears to hear beyond noise, for a spirit that recognizes counterfeit opportunities before they can attach themselves to your journey. Second, guard your thoughts with ferocity. Proverbs 4:23 commands, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." Your thoughts are the gateway to your heart, and your heart determines the direction of your life. Monitor what you allow into your mind. Be ruthless about the media you consume, the conversations you entertain, the inner dialogues you allow to linger. Fear, doubt, jealousy, comparison. These are not harmless emotions. They are invaders sent to erode your focus and diminish your faith. Every day, you must filter your thoughts through the lens of your divine mission. Is this thought building my assignment or breaking it down? Is this emotion fueling my purpose or draining it? Is this perspective aligning me with heaven or anchoring me to earth's fears? If it does not align, it must be cast down without negotiation. Third, be intentional about your inner circle. Not everyone can walk with you into your next season. Some relationships, while comfortable, are not covenantal. Some friendships, while familiar, are no longer aligned with the mantle now resting on your life. Do not confuse loyalty to people with loyalty to your purpose. God is calling you higher. Some will celebrate your elevation, others will resent it. You must have the courage to discern the difference without bitterness. You need voices around you who remind you who you are when you forget. You need friends who will guard your blind spots, who will pray over you when warfare comes, who will call you out when pride whispers, and call you up when fear crouches at your door. You cannot afford casual proximity in a season of critical purpose. Do not be afraid to prune. Every healthy tree must endure pruning if it is to bear more fruit. Pruning is not punishment, it is preparation for greater productivity. Let God cut away connections that no longer nourish your destiny. Trust Him to replace what is removed with relationships rooted in kingdom assignment. Fourth, anoint your assignments regularly. Do not treat your business, your ministry, your art, your leadership role as ordinary. Lay hands on your work. Pray over your contracts, your designs, your classrooms, your proposals. Declare that every work of your hands will prosper according to divine order. Speak life into your projects. Plead the blood of Jesus over every venture and every endeavor. You are not just building earthly structures, you are erecting eternal altars through your obedience. Finally, walk daily with an awareness that you are carrying something precious. Move with humility, but with confidence. You do not have to defend your blessing with striving. You defend it through obedience. You protect it by remaining anchored in the Word, submitted in prayer, and aligned with purpose. When distractions arise, and they will, pause and recalibrate. When flattery tempts, and it will, bow lower in humility. When opportunity knocks, test it against the blueprint God placed in your spirit. Do not rush, do not compromise. Remember, one moment of distraction can delay destiny for years. One compromise can create detours that take decades to undo. But you will not be derailed. You will not be deceived. You will not be delayed, because you are being equipped with the tools of a wise steward. You are learning the ways of a faithful warrior, and heaven is reinforcing your gates even now. Chosen one, this is your charge, to protect what you have prayed for, to guard what heaven has graced you with, to nurture the harvest until it multiplies beyond anything you can imagine. You are not building for applause, you are building for legacy. So rise every morning with your armor fastened. Walk every day with your eyes clear. Speak every word with purpose, love with discernment, move with precision, pray without ceasing, and protect without apology. You are not just a recipient, you are a guardian. You are not just blessed, you are entrusted. You do not apologize for light that was heaven. Chosen one, now is not the time to hesitate. Now is not the hour to shrink back. Now is not the season to apologize for the favor that heaven has decreed over your life. You are not emerging from the shadows to tiptoe into your destiny. You are stepping into your inheritance as a victor, a conqueror, a living testament of the unstoppable faithfulness of God. You do not owe anyone an apology for the blessings that are now overtaking you. You do not need to dim your light to make others feel comfortable. You do not need to minimize your testimony to protect fragile egos. You are not called to blend in. You are called to blaze trails. You are not an accident. You are an answer. You are not lucky. You are anointed. There is no guilt in receiving what God has prepared for you. There is no shame in walking in abundance that was paid for by the blood of Jesus himself. You were not redeemed by your own merit. You were redeemed by his mercy. You were not elevated by your own hand. You were lifted by his grace. Therefore, how can you feel guilty for standing where he has placed you? You must now reject every whisper of unworthiness. Cast down every thought that tells you to disqualify yourself. Silence every voice, internal or external, that questions your right to thrive. You are not standing in your own name. You are standing in the name of the King of Kings. You are not moving in your own strength. You are moving under the anointing of heaven. Romans 8:37 declares, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." More than conquerors, not beggars, not wanderers, not casualties, victors, warriors, royal heirs who walk boldly, who speak fearlessly, who live unapologetically under an open heaven. Your story, your scars, your survival. They have all prepared you for this moment. The battles you thought would break you were actually building you. The betrayals that wounded you were actually sharpening your discernment. The delays that frustrated you were actually refining your faith. Everything was training you to reign, not to retreat. Do you not see it? You have crossed over. The season of wilderness wandering is over. The season of famine has ended. You are standing at the threshold of a land flowing with promise. You are standing under a sky heavy with answered prayers. This is not a dream. This is divine manifestation. Now is the time to walk like one who has already won. Carry yourself with the quiet authority of a soul who knows they are backed by heaven. Speak with the confidence of one who understands that your voice carries the weight of prophecy fulfilled. Move with the precision of one whose steps are ordered by the Lord himself. When people question your rise, let your fruit answer them. When critics whisper about your favor, let your impact silence them. When doubt tries to creep into your mind, stand tall and declare, "I am chosen, I am called, I am appointed for such a time as this." You must shed the skin of insecurity once and for all. Guilt and shame are chains you were never meant to wear. Fear is a language you no longer speak. Condemnation is a sentence you no longer serve. You have been acquitted by the court of heaven. You have been cleared, commissioned, and crowned. Stop second-guessing the blessing. Stop minimizing the miracle. Stop apologizing for the anointing. You paid a price in the private places. You sowed tears into ground no one else saw. You endured seasons where quitting would have been easier than standing. You chose faith over fear, surrender over bitterness, perseverance over apathy. And now the harvest is yours to gather without apology. This is the season to lift your head high, to walk into rooms with authority, to occupy spaces that were once closed off to you, not because of arrogance, but because of alignment. not because of ego, but because of assignment. Not because you are seeking fame, but because you are carrying fire. Every step you take from this moment forward must be rooted in the unshakable knowing that you are heaven-bept, hell-proof, and history-making. You do not need permission from man when you have the approval of God. You do not need validation from crowds when you have the endorsement of the King, chosen one. Your days of small thinking are over. Your days of shrinking to fit into lesser narratives are finished. You were born for this. You were built for this. You were blessed for this. So, rise. Move with boldness. Build with fearlessness. Speak with clarity. Lead with integrity. Love with courage. And never, ever apologize for walking in the fullness of what God has given you. The earth is groaning for the sons and daughters of God to be revealed. And now, here you are, revealed, resplendent, radiant, ready. Walk like the victor you are, because the victory is already yours. You were never meant to build a garden. You were meant to plant a forest. Chosen one, now that you have received the divine blessing, now that heaven's wealth has been transferred into your hands, you must understand something deeper, something holier than mere possession. You were not blessed simply to live comfortably. You were blessed to build. You were not anointed merely to survive. You were anointed to establish a legacy that will ripple through eternity. The blessing you carry is too vast, too sacred, too potent to be consumed in a single lifetime. It was never meant to end with you. It was always meant to flow through you, to touch lives beyond your sight, to echo across generations yet unborn. Heaven's economy is not about accumulation. It is about multiplication. It is not about gathering treasures for personal glory. It is about seeding movements, birthing destinies, planting forests that will shelter countless souls. Do not think small in this hour. Do not plant a single tree when God has called you to cultivate a forest. Do not build a single house when God has called you to establish cities. The wealth transfer that has begun in your life is not just financial. It is strategic. It is generational. It is eternal. You are not called to enjoy a harvest. You are called to sow fields upon fields so vast that your descendants will never see famine again. This is the season to think bigger than ever before. Every dollar you steward is a seed. Every word you speak is a seed. Every act of obedience you sow is a seed. You are planting for your children's children. You are planting for communities you will never visit. You are planting for nations you will never physically touch, but will spiritually impact. Proverbs 13:22 reminds us, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. The inheritance is not only money, it is wisdom, it is faith, it is vision, it is righteousness, it is blueprints for freedom and strategies for dominion. You are not just living in answered prayers, you are becoming the answer to prayers still being whispered in the earth. The wealth in your hands is holy. It is missional. It is militant against the darkness that seeks to keep generations in cycles of bondage and lack. You are being sent as a reformer, as a rebuilder, as a restorer of ancient ruins. As Isaiah 61:4 declares, they will rebuild the ancient ruins and restore the places long devastated. They will renew the ruined cities. This is not about temporary relief. It is about eternal restoration. It is about establishing altars of righteousness where once there were ashes of despair. It is about raising standards of truth where lies once reigned. It is about creating pathways of abundance where poverty once trapped generations in fear. So step fully into your mantle. Lift your head and ask God for nations, not just needs. Pray for movements, not just miracles. Dream beyond your lifetime, move beyond your comfort zone, think beyond your immediate circle. You are carrying the capacity for global impact. You are a carrier of kingdom infrastructure. Every school you fund, every business you build, every ministry you launch, every invention you birth, every family you restore, it is all part of the legacy being written through your obedience. And let me speak this clearly into your spirit. You are not just blessed for a season. You are blessed for generations. You are not called to harvest one field. You are called to plant forests that no famine can destroy. You are not called to light a single candle. You are called to ignite wildfires of faith across continents. You are not called to be a reservoir. You are called to be a river that floods valleys long starved of hope. Chosen one, this is your holy charge. Build what fear tried to dismantle. Birth what history tried to abort. Plant what hell tried to burn. Establish what heaven dreamed through you long before you ever breathed your first breath. You were trusted with this blessing because heaven knew you would not hoard it. You would multiply it. You would distribute it with wisdom, with discernment, with courage. And because of that, your name will be remembered in heaven's archives as one who did not squander their scroll, but fulfilled it with honor. You are stepping into a divine continuum, a sacred relay where your obedience today becomes the baton handed to tomorrow's warriors, prophets, builders, and reformers. Your yes now is unlocking doors they will walk through with ease. Your faith now is shattering ceilings they will never have to break. Your generosity now is creating highways where once there were only wildernesses. So do not see the blessing as the end. See it as the beginning. The wealth transfer is not the destination. It is the foundation. Now you build. Now you plant. Now you multiply. Now you become the ancestor someone will one day thank for their freedom, their abundance, their inheritance of purpose. And as you move forward, remember this prophetic truth. You are not just blessed for one harvest, you are blessed for generations. You are not just an answer for today, you are a solution for centuries. The seeds you sow now will yield fruit long after your voice fades from earthly ears, but continues to echo in the courts of heaven. Chosen one, if your spirit bears witness to this word, if you feel the weight and wonder of this call to build beyond yourself, then I invite you to seal your agreement today. Drop the number 777 in the comments below. Let heaven, earth, and even hell know that you are stepping into generational blessing, supernatural protection, and radical awakening from this very day forward. You are not just a receiver, you are a rebuilder. You are not just a beneficiary, you are a blueprint. You are not just a survivor, you are a sower of legacies. Now go forth, plant the forest, write the future, shape the ages. Heaven has decreed it, and it is so.